Jai Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Gopijana Balaba Divanadari Jasodanandana Bhajajanarandana Jasodanandana Bhajajanarandana Jamunatiravanatadi Jamunatiravanatadi Indrira Madhava Kunda Bihari Gopijana Balaba Girivanadari Jasodanandana Bhajajanarandana Jamunatiravanatadi Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Boom! Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Boom! Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Boom! Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Boom! Jai Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Jara Madhava Kunda Bihari. Jai Vishnupad Paramahansi Padi Bhajikacharya Shishaman Divine Grace Abhaicharan Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Jagaguru Srila Prabhupada Ki. Anantakota Vaishya Brinda Ki. Namchar Srila Haridas Thakur Ki. Prem Shikoho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Guru Bhakti Brinda Ki. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giju Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki. Mathura Dham Ki. Dwarka Dham Ki. Navadhi Dham Ki. Jagannathpur Dham Ki. Jamuna Mai Ki. Ganga Mai Ki. Tulsi Maharani Ki. Bhakti Devi Ki. Sambhita Bhaktivinda Ki. Srila Prabhupada Ki. Shri Sri Radha Ki. Shri Krishna Sankirtana Jaga Ki. Gopremanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the divine lotus feet of Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. We had a new bhakti here at one point in time. Now, he's an initiated devotee. But he spent a couple days here. And then he asked me a question. He said, Swamiji, what's with the elitism in the temple? And I was thinking, elitism, he means senior devotees, junior devotees, what does he mean? And so I asked him, he said, well, how come we say all glories to some of the devotees? What's wrong with the rest of them? And I said, no, it's assembled devotees. Huh? All glories to the humble devotees. Well, that's okay. So, and what people hear and what's actually happening are two different stories. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Krishna Swadamo Bhagate Dhammaganadi Visaha Kaladasa Dashamesha Paranarko Nadodita Narayana Namaskritcham Naram Chaivam Narotama Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayat. Bhagavatam is his brain, is the son. Is to come just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode, accompanied with knowledge, religion, etc. Persons who have lost their vision to the dense darkness of the age of Kali shall get light out of this Purana. Before beginning our study of the Srimad Bhagavatam, we should first offer respects to the personality of God Narayan, to the Narayan Rishi, the supremmost human being, the goddess of learning, Mother Saraswati, the author, Srila Vyasadeva, and my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. Can we pitch this week-old water and put a little new water in? Thanks, Prabhu. Mahaprasad water. All right, so we are in the 7th canto, chapter 13, text 34. And the chapter is titled, The Behavior of a Perfect Person. Do you know how I learned this in drafting class when I was 13 years old? If you want to draw a straight line from one point to another, freehand, how do you do that without a ruler? You look at the point you're going to. You look where you're going to. If you watch along the way, you'll waver. Similarly, shouldn't we know for human society, if we want to become our better angels, if we want to be, as they say in the Marines, all that you can be, shouldn't we know what a perfect person looks like? Wouldn't that help us? If we know what the goal is, that will help us target it. So this is chapter is titled Behavior of a Perfect Person. Does this mean, because it describes all four orders, is it talking about the perfection of a perfect Brahman, a perfect Vaishya, a perfect Sudra, a perfect Kshatriya, or is it talking about Python Man? I think it's talking about Python Man, because he's the primary speaker of the chapter. All right. Shoka, Moha, Bhaya, Krodha, Raga, Klaibhya, Shamadaya, Yan, Mula, Sur, Nrinam, Jayat, Spriham, Pranartayo, Buddha, Sukhamoha Bhaya Krodha, Raga Klaibha Shramadaya, Yanmula Surnanam Jayat, Spriham Pranaya Buddha, Sukhamoha Bhaya Krodha, Raja Klaibhya Shramadaya, Yanmula Surnanam Jayat, Spriham Pranayo Buddha, Shokamoha Bhaya Krodha, Raga Klaibha Shramadaya, Yanmula Surnanam Jayat, Spuram Pranatayo Buddha, Sokamoha Bhaya Krodha, Raga Klaibha Yanmula Surnanam Jayat, Sviyam Pranartayo Buddha,
Sokamoha Bhaya Krodha, Raga Klaibha Shramadaya, Yanmula Surnanam Jayat, Priyam Pranartayor Buddha, Sokamoha Bhaya Krodha, Raga Klaibha Shramadaya, Yanmula Surnanam Jayat, Priyam Pranartayor Buddha.
Vaishnavis, Shokamoha Bhaya Krodha, Raga Klaibha Shramadaya, Yanmula Surnanam Jayat, Spriham Pranartayor Buddha, Sokamoha Bhaya Krodha, Raga Klabya Sramadaya Yanmula Sur Spriham Pranayor Soka lamentation, Moha illusion, Bhaya fear, Krodha anger, Raga attachment, Klabya poverty, Shrama unnecessary labor, Adaya and so on. Yat Mula, the original cause of all of these. Shu, become, Nrinam, of human beings. Jayat, should give up. Spriham, desire. Prana, for bodily strength or prestige. Atayo, and accumulating money. Buddha, an intelligent person. Those in human society who are intelligent should, there's a rare few, should give up the original cause of lamentation, illusion, fear, anger, attachment, poverty, and unnecessary labor. Okay, what is that original cause? The original cause of all of these is the desire for unnecessary prestige and money. Also, you say, those in human society who are intelligent should give up the original cause of lamentation, illusion, fear, anger, attachment, poverty, and unnecessary labor. The original cause of all of these is the desire for unnecessary prestige and money. Translation. Those in human society who are intelligent should give up the original cause of lamentation, illusion, fear, anger, attachment, poverty, and unnecessary labor. The original cause of all of these is the desire for unnecessary prestige and money. Purport. There is a difference between Vedic civilization and the modern demonic civilization. Vedic civilization is concerned itself with how these, Hare Krishna. Vedic civilization concerned itself with how to achieve self-realization. And for this purpose, one was recommended to have a small income to maintain body and soul together. The society was divided into Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras, and the members of this society would limit their endeavor to meeting their minimum demands. The Brahmins in particular would have no material desires. Because the Kshatriyas had to rule the people, it was necessary for them to have money and prestige. They have to have power, because they say, this is the answer, this is what they have to manage. They have to have some weight behind that, you know? And they have to have money, because they can, provide for the citizens in lean times and this and that. So, it was their duty. The members of society would limit their endeavors to meeting their minimal due. That we read. Because Kshatriyas had to rule the people, it was necessary for them to have money and prestige. But the Vaishyas were satisfied with agricultural produce and milk from the cows. And if by chance there was extra, trade was allowed. The Sudras were also happy, for they could get food and shelter for from the three higher classes. What does the average American, assuming there's not a war going on, what is the main driver? It's the economy. Clinton ran on the slogan, it's the economy, stupid. I forget who the president, I think it was Hoover, said what America needs is a chicken in every pot, 2 cars in every garage, and a good 5-cent cigar. Now, do you think those people are Sudras, just want to fill their belly and get through the day? What do you think? If that's what appeals to them. So Prabhupada's talking about just, got a little maintenance and, I'm okay. Okay. In the demonic civilization of the present day, however, there is no question of Brahmins or Kshatriyas. There are only so-called workers and a flourishing mercantile class who have no goal in life. There's always those TV shows you see. I see them in the airport sometimes. The lifestyles of the rich and famous. And they get a gold toilet, when they've got enough money, or a big yacht, or, They have no goal in life. You give them money, what are they going to do with it, No goal in life. According to the Vedic civilization, the ultimate perfection of life is to take sannyas. But at the present moment, people do not know why sannyas is accepted. Because of misunderstanding, they think that one accepts sannyas to escape social responsibilities. Oh, you guys, you at least got a roof over your head and 3 meals a day. You're sitting in there ringing bells and eating rice. But, all right, But how are you helping society? How are you helping build a better world? So, of course, we have an answer, and we'll get there. Generally, one accepts sannyas at the 4th stage of spiritual life. One begins as a brahmachari, then one becomes a grihastha, a varnaprastha, and finally a sannyasi takes advantage of the duration of one's life to engage oneself fully in self-realization. 25, suppose you live an average of 100 years. Now it's down to 80, but you can still do it divided by 4. You spend, a quarter of your life as a student. You spend a quarter of your life as a householder. You spend a quarter of your year as a vanaprastha, traveling to different holy tirthas and disentangling yourself. And then you spend a quarter of your year of your life as a sannyasi. Makes sense, right? You don't, and Varnaprastha, they do it. What do? They get a motor home and they visit the national parks. And they go see the world's biggest ball of string or, whatever it is out there, Or they go traveling. So that the inclination is there, but again, they have no goal in life. What do? So the Vedas, we've said this before, it is a complete understanding of human psychology. And they've tailored a system according to human psychology that gradually extracts the living entity from materialistic life, lets them fulfill their desires, work it out, and make progress because they know the ultimate goal of life. Otherwise, they wind up crying on their deathbed, "Doc, can you give me 2 more years? I got to get my granddaughter married." You're in a good mood this morning. However, because in Kali Yuga people are more or less prone to sense gratification, immature sannyas is not recommended. Srila Rupa Goswami writes in his Nectar of Instruction, Atyahara priyasyascha prajalpanyamagraha janasanga chalolyam cha sadbir bhakti vinasyate. One's devotional service is spoiled when it becomes too entangled in the following 6 activities. This is Rupa Goswami. Eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required. Over-endeavoring for mundane things which are difficult to obtain. Talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters. Practicing the spiritual rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement, or rejecting the rules, so either accepting just to follow the rules, and why are we doing it? Well, we always done it that way. You know, what does it mean? Well, nobody knows. That's why people like it when Dharma Setu does a wedding, because he explains why we're doing it. Otherwise, it's just pull your earlobes, throw this, sprinkle some water, up, down, bow, this and that, and, you know, how long till there's a time for a meal? They say that the mother is thinking, the husband is thinking, the groom, she looks just like Sita. The bride thinks, he looks just like Ram. The mother thinks, I hope they'll have noble children. The father thinks, I hope he can take good care of her. And you know what everybody else is thinking? When do we eat? So they don't, but Dharma Setu explains what's going on, and they think, that makes sense, you know. Okay, where were we? Or rejecting the rules and regulations of the scripture and working independently or whimsically. 5, associating with worldly-minded people who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. And 6, being greedy for mundane achievements. That's the end from Rupa Goswami. A sannyasi should have an institution meant for preaching Krishna consciousness. He needs not accumulate money for himself. We recommend that as soon as money accumulates in our Krishna consciousness movement, 50% should be invested in printing books, and 50% for expenditures, especially for establishing centers all over the world. The managers of the Krishna consciousness movement should be extremely cautious in regard to this point. Otherwise, money will cause lamentation, illusion, fear, anger, material attachment, material poverty, and unnecessary hard work. When I was alone in Vrindavan, I never attempted to construct mats or temples. Rather, I was fully satisfied with the small amount of money I could gather by selling back the Godhead, and thus I would provide for myself and also print the literature. When I went to foreign countries, I lived according to the same principle. When European and Americans began to give money profusely, I started temples and deity worship. The same principle should still be followed. Whatever money is collected should be spent for Krishna, and not a farthing for sense gratification. That is the Bhagavad principle. Just for fun, and I've mentioned it before, but what the hey, we'll do it again. The cloth shop in Loy Bazaar, Ganga Prasads? Everybody knows Ganga Prasads. Somehow or other, he's passed away now. I became friends with the grandfather. Of course, I was 20, and he's probably 30 years old at the time, whatever. And anyway, he would sit at the back of the no, he was older than that. He was sitting at the back of the shop. He was probably about 50, 60. And he would just be chanting japa. And the whole thing's going on. They got the clerks and this and that, and there's 4 or 5 customers. Somebody misquoted the price of a cloth. Man, he got it. He was right on it. But he was just sitting in the back chanting japa. And we became friends. And he told me one time, he said, you're Swami Maharaj. That's what they used to call Prabhupada in Vrindavan. They said, you're Swami Maharaj. He was not like the other sadhus. And I said, well, what do you mean? He said, because we wouldn't see him all the time hanging out in the marketplace, reading the newspaper, playing the radio. And then he would just come. He would come and buy a little typewriter ribbon. He'd buy a few spices, a veg or two, and he'd be gone. He didn't waste time. And Ganga Prasad, the grandfather, said, I was thinking, what's in such a hurry about? He must be keeping one woman back at his place. So he followed him home. He actually, surreptitiously followed Prabhupada back. Prabhupada was saying he was at the Vamsi Gopal temple at that time. And you can see he got under Prabhupada's window, and he thought, well, he'll hear Prabhupada's listening to cricket, and there'll be some woman laughter or something like that. He said, all I heard was type, 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 type. He said, I went back in the middle of the night, type, 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 type. I went early in the morning, type, type. Prabhupada was working on his Bhagavatam, so he'd have books to take to the Western world and fulfill his spiritual master's impossible mission. So that's Prabhupada's living very simply, very frugally, and focused on his mission. Did we? Yeah, we finished. Om Agena Tamirandasya Agena Agena Salkaya Chakshushan Milatan Gena Tasarishi Gurave Namaha. So it's one of the symptoms of Kali Yuga that people do not like to take advice. They have really trouble hearing the truth. I remember my father, we would always go on a 2 or 3 week summer vacation tour. And my father would invariably get lost. But there was no GPS in those days. And he would look at the map and this and that and drive around in circles. All over the place. My mother would say, Bob, that was his name, Bob, we passed that hotel 3 times now. And then she'd say, Bob, we're surrounded by people who probably know exactly where they are. Why don't you ask somebody? But, especially in those days, men were even more proud than they are now. And they'd never ask advice. But it's a symptom of the age of Kali that people don't, and they don't like hearing the truth. They do that, they test movies all the time, and movies that have a depressing ending, that aren't, fireworks and the boy gets girl, loses girl, gets girl back. If it doesn't have an ending like that, it's a flop. They interview the audience. It's got to have an upbeat, got to, So, but that doesn't really help us. If I encourage you to chase after a mirage, am I actually helping you? I'm just deluding you and prolonging your misery. So, sorry folks, but what's actually happening here is the unvarnished reality. If you don't know what reality is, how in the world are you going to improve things? You got to know what the baseline is, you got to know where you're going, and then you can calculate how to progress, make progress. So here it is. This is from the Vaishnav Tantra and another book called the Vishnu Yamala Tantra. And Prabhupada quotes it a number of times. If you want to know what's in something, like it's a Ekadasi, suppose, I don't know what it is, you're on traveling Sankirtan, you got to buy some crackers or something because you don't have a stove or, whatever it is, right? You look at the ingredients. Even you look at yogurt. Does it have gelatin in it? You got to see what's in it, right? So you look at the thing. If you read the ingredients, you know what's in it, right? You know what to expect. All right? So hopefully. So there are 18 great faults in this material world. 18 great faults. 18 great faults. And it's from as I said, it's from the Vaishnav Tantra or the Vishnu Yamala Tantra. Both of these repeated. And Prabhupada quotes it 5 or 6 times in the Bhagavatam, the same list. So here's the ingredients that, Kali Yuga sandwich you're about to tuck in. Here's the ingredients. And tell me if you want to order it or not. You're looking at the menu, and here's the ingredients for the Kali Yuga meal. Bewilderment, sleep, error, material attachment, material lust, fickleness, intoxication, envy, violence, exhaustion, toil, lying, anger, hankering, worry, prejudice, absorption in worldly affairs, dependent on others. I'll read that one more time. That's what this life is. That's what life in the material world is, jacked up, compounded by Kali Yuga. This is what it is. People though that's just pessimistic. If I tell you you're cruising down the road, and I say, hey, by the way, the brakes don't work, and the bridge is out up ahead of you. Why are you so... that's what kind of message is that? Perk it up, buddy. Look on the bright side. What? Then maybe you can jump it. Why are you so morose? Look at the positive. What's positive? You don't get hurt. It's not the way down that causes the problem. It's hitting the ground that's the problem. So enjoy the ride. It's just craziness. So I'm going to read it one more time. 18 great faults. This is what you can expect. This is what's on reality tours. They got Fantasyland, Wonderland. I don't know what else is at Disneyland. Suppose they had a ride, reality tours. Here's a reality land. Everybody's schlepping along. Everybody's going to get a boss they don't like. Here it is. Bewilderment, sleep, error, material attachments, material lust, fickleness, intoxication, envy, violence, exhaustion, toil, lying, anger, hankering, worry, prejudice, absorption in worldly affairs, and too much dependence on others. Sign me up. So, they say if you're smart, if you want to get to the bottom of something, you can't just do it like a parrot, but you got to ask why 5 times. Well, the offering's late. Why? Well, I had trouble getting the ingredients. Why? Well, Sankarshan didn't get back in time. Why? Well, and if you ask, you'll find out, well, actually, the cars aren't being maintained, and they're always late. And you got to get to the root of the thing. You want to get to the root of the thing, you got to ask why 5 times. Not like a parrot, but in the similar fashion, why? What is this world? And, if I'm meant to be, if the default nature of the self is to be happy, and even the materialists say that, work hard, be a good person, and you'll get the American dream. Other than Dravida, anyone know Devamrita Maharaj's famous mantra about why they call it the American dream? Because you got to be asleep to believe it. So, I do want to push on, and we don't have that much time. So it talks about intelligent. And, Prabhupada was speaking in France, in Paris, during the student riots. Power to the people, communism, this and that, and the exploitative capitalistic system, and rightly so. So they were all protesting. And classless society. And Prabhupada speaks about 4 orders and 4 divisions of society and one's personal life. Varnashram Dharma. Talk about truth to power. And at one point in the audience, the communists were there to agitate. You know, opiate, the religion is the opiate of the people and all that. So they were protesting. And they started shouting at Prabhupada. And they said, I suppose you think you're first class. I suppose you... Kripamai was there. She was translating. I suppose you think you're first class. I suppose, you know. Prabhupada said, no. In such a way, just cut through the audience, everyone was quiet. And Prabhupada said, I'm fifth class. I'm a servant of all the other classes. And Prabhupada, because Prabhupada meant it, he said it with such conviction that there was the crowd burst out in applause, and the guy just sat down. So the point is, we know Prabhupada's actual position of completely humble. But, what was I going to say? So in the same way, same Vaishnav mood, we're a servant of all the other classes. Prabhupada calls it humble persuasion from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Still, I saw a t-shirt the other day that said, there's no fixing stupid. You ever seen that one? I mean, people in Kali Yuga, we should not be, Prabhupada's classic example. If you have a Walmart, so many people are going there and buying costume jewelry. What's it called? Zubricon? What is that called? Yeah, fake, fake diamonds. People are lined up buying it. And you get what you pay for it, My sister, I know it's a long story, had a boyfriend, bought her diamond earrings. She broke up with him and checked it out. Turns out they were just fakes. She said, well, good thing I got warned off on him early. So the point I'm making is you have so many people go into Walmart and buy costume jewelry. And that's what you've got, costume jewelry. How many people do you find going into a Tiffany's jewelry store? There's a stream of people pouring in there for the blue light special. Few people a day. But if they're willing to pay the price, they get a real diamond. They've got a permanent investment because they paid the price. I'm not advocating go buy diamonds, save me the emails. But the point I'm making is that if you're willing to pay the price, you get the real thing, hopefully. So similarly with Krishna consciousness, it's not sumedasa. Those who have sufficient, Bhagavatam 11th canto says, those with sufficient brain substance. So we shouldn't be disappointed. Well, why aren't people pouring in here? The devotees in Italy, this was told to me by Dhananjaya Prabhu. Prabhupada, our Dhananjaya. The original devotees came from London, and they didn't speak much Italian, maybe a word or two. They had a tiny apartment, crammed full of people. Yeah, what's not to love? Que bello, que lindo, que precioso, They have nice, something to eat, chanting, dancing, fantastic. Packed full of people, bigger every Sunday. Devotee showed up who spoke Italian. He gave the talk, and people stood up and walked out the door. Devotee said, well, what did you do? What did you say? He said, I explained the 4 regulative principles. People say, hey, I'm out of here, man. As long as there's chanting and dancing and feasting, sign me up. Of course, this is Mahaprabhu's mercy, and Mahaprabhu's compassion for Kali Yuga. And it is true. It works. Prabhupada said, I've tricked you all, and now you can't get away. You just chant, dance, take prasadam, and there's no taste like it. So, but you have to be willing to pay the price if you really want to get pure Krishna consciousness. And there's not that many people that are willing to do it. So don't be disappointed. It's the rare souls. And they go back to Godhead. Okay, we'll say a few more things and we'll end. Well, just for fun, I wanted to share one of the mantras we get when we take sannyas. And here's one of the, it's from the Avanti Brahmana, that section of the Bhagavatam. For one who is in the grips of death, what is the use of wealth or those who offer it? Sense gratification or those who offer it, or for that matter, any type of fruitive activity, which simply causes one to again take birth in the material world. What is the use of it? So this is the inspiration for austerity. What is the use? I can't take it with me. It's not going to fully satisfy me. It comes with, as it says in this verse, with the seeds that cause further distress, all those 18 symptoms. Why am I wasting my time? I'm just setting myself up to get, like those ducks, you know, in the county fair, and they just get knocked over, and then they pop them back up, and we're just getting set up to get knocked over again. Doesn't make any sense at all. So the thing is, and I guess I'll cut to the chase, if I'm on you ever see a ring set? Do they even have playgrounds anymore at schools? I think they do. You know, a ring set is you go around, and because you have the force of moving, you know, you grab onto one ring and then you grab onto, they still have those? And you go around in a circle, you can go around and around, swinging from one. But you can't grab the future ring unless you let go of the old ring. You got to let go of the old ring, and then you can grab the next one. And you got to let go of that one to grab the next one. Or as Jesus says, you can't have your foot in two boats. You know, two boats go in different directions. You got one foot in one boat, one foot in the other boat. What's going to happen to you? You know, you're going to fall in the water. So, human form of life, they know the goal. And they're not blaming anybody. It's this person's fault or that person's fault. I mean, we're not talking about being exploited. We're not talking, there's not cruelty in political systems. I'm not saying that. But in the ultimate issue, we know, why am I in the situation I'm in? It's her fault. No, it's his fault. No, it's his fault. Why am I in this condition? It's my fault. We have found the enemy, and the enemy is us. We put ourselves in this condition. And what I do now, what will that mean for my future? We're experiencing the result of our past activities, and as we act now, will determine our next life. We're completely in charge. So therefore, let me do my duty. Let me understand that each purpose of life is to progress, go back home, back to Godhead. And in the interim, what we've got, well, there's so much to say. I guess I'll save this for later. Here is something far out from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who was the big flame of the day in India, was Swaraj, or independence from the British colonial system. Prabhupada himself said that when he first met Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Prabhupada was dressed in khadi cloth. Khadi cloth meant you were not I don't want to go too far afield. Khadi cloth meant that you were buying handloom cloth made in India, that you were no longer buying British mill cloth. Because they said, here's a factoid. When the British first arrived in India, India was 29% of the world's production, the gross national product. Just under it was China, just under that was Persia. Europe, I mean, England was like 2.5%, Germany was 3%, France was, 2.5% of the gross national product for the whole world, each country's production. India was booming. India had a navy that sailed all the way up the Thames River with merchants coming from India. I mean, they were, as a cloth, everyone was after muslin cloth, Indian cloth. Silk, cotton, it was the finest cloth in the world. When the British finally left in 1947, India was 2.5% of the gross national product. They just, like you take a towel and squeeze out all the water, they squeezed all that they possibly could out of India. And as soon as they lost India, and it's the Indian soldiers and Indian raw material, the whole British Empire collapsed. It was the jewel in the crown. Even they said that. I'm not an Indiophile. I'm not saying, oh, great for India. I'm simply making the point that they simply exploited the place as much as they possibly could. So that system, sometimes devotees were afraid to talk about Varnashram Dharma. It has to be presented properly, time, place, and circumstance. But communism doesn't work. Capitalism doesn't work. Socialism doesn't work. There's so many different societies they've tried out. They don't work. But when India was following Varnashram Dharma, it was the wealthiest country in the world. So we should have confidence that the sages and sadhus of India, they say to us, well, okay, you guys are all ringing bells and chanting in the temple, but why don't you help the world? Why don't you become doctors? Why don't you become teachers? Why don't you become, get out there and hustle. Put your shoulder to the wheel and make the world a better place. Well, what don't they understand? What's missing? They don't value being a devotee. When they meet, let me ask you a question, Govardhan. Out there on book distribution, or Dvijamani, or what's the best way one of the best ways to stop people? What do you mention? Okay, happiness, but what's the other side of the coin? Stress, peace, relief, mental pressure. You say, hey, these are books about stress. What happens? Eat! Well, what do you got there? You tell them this is about self-realization and experiencing the higher rasa, a pure love of God. They're gone. But you say, hey, these are about relieving stress. Eat! I'll take two. So that's an indication of what they're experiencing. And we just read the 18 qualities. They're not getting relief. They're just shuffling the same thing. So, do you criticize to become a doctor, a good doctor? You got to really focus. It's hard work. Okay? You want to get a PhD, piled higher, deeper, prominent humility disorder, or permanent head damage. It's hard work, isn't it? It's hard work. So they specialize. We don't have time, but someday I'll tell Prabhupada's joke about the eye specialist. So the point is that people specialize. If I want to be, I'm a doctor, and nobody criticizes, well, you know, I'm a cardiologist, I'm a surgeon, well, why aren't you all kinds of doctors? Nobody criticizes. You say, I'm an educator. Well, I teach high school, or nobody criticizes. I teach college, no one criticizes. You know, well, what do you do? I'm a welder. Nobody, what? Why are you just specializing? So people specialize, and they add to society. What about devotees who are adding the most valuable thing? They're adding spiritual understanding. If you want love in society, this is the best way to do it. You want peace and tranquility. You want to instill higher values. You want to make a quality population, the next generation, to be not greedy little self-centered weasels. Well, you've got to instill spiritual values in them. So they don't, because as Prabhupada says here, they don't know the goal. They don't understand the value of devotees. But we should know that this is the most, as Prabhupada always said, it is the greatest welfare for society. Okay, we'll end there. And thank you very much. Hare Krishna. I don't see